So since moving to Taupo 1 month ago, I've been busy starting a bunch of my horses, but I've purposely saved De Luca for this video series because I want to show you guys how I start my horses under saddle, and I take them from the very beginning stages through to teaching them how to jump, etc. So De Luca is a rising 4-year-old. I think he's the third horse I've ever bred. He's by my gelding, who was a stallion, Lento, out of a thoroughbred mare, and he's had basic handling from a baby. So we do feet trims every 6 to 8 weeks throughout their whole life. They're wormed and they transport and load beautifully. I think he might have had a rug on a couple of times, but for the most part during winter they're normally uncovered. So I want to show you the stages that I go through in preparation for what I'm about to do. Now, just bear in mind that about maybe 6 months ago I have hopped on his back and lain over him once. I usually do that as when they've just turned 3 years old and just get them used to bearing the weight of a rider. But today I'm going to progress through to showing you going back over that same step of lying over his back and sitting up on him, and then saddling him up and having first forward steps, etc. So I like my horses with a lot of personality. I like them very expressive and curious, and so I don't mind if he's nibbling and moving around to an extent. Obviously if he's been rude or pushy or getting in my space, I'll send him back out, but I don't ever want them to be like a machine where they just kind of go through the motions and do what they want. Do what I want. And if you meet my horses, you'll quickly realise that they have a lot of personality and they're quite naughty and they're a pain in the bum. But I like them like that because I think it gives them more heart when they're jumping, and it makes life a bit more fun and interesting. I know if I was a horse and someone tried to make me behave and do everything perfectly, I'd get so bored and I would lose my enjoyment for what I do. So anyway, first of all, before I begin anything, I want to be able to do what I do with all my young horses, is I teach them how to flex left, right and down, because I want to install all my ridden elements on the ground first. I don't want to get on the back and realise I don't have brakes installed, I don't have the control, because that's when we're going to lead to issues. So basically, first what I need to be able to have him do is just flex his head to the left, like so, good boy. Then flex his head to the right. I want to have a very light contact, good boy. Then flex his head down. So I'm just going to wait till he's soft on the halter. Even though he's put his head down, he's still holding. So just waiting until, good boy. So even if he does it by accident, good boy, I'm going to reward, good man. He'll get a little telling off for that because I don't want him to hit me. Good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of turn on the forehand, which is what I teach them from a very young age, so I've got body control, so when I'm walking through gateways or I need to do an emergency stop, it's right there. So basically I'm just going to quietly walk towards the stifle, put a bit of pressure on the stifle with a nice soft high hand here, and see if I can get him to come around. So there, he's straightened his head, his back end's locked, so I'm going to flex him back to the left, get his attention back on me, so flex his head round towards me, good boy. Flex his head round towards me, good boy. Good. There we had one little step of turn on the forehand, which is good. I'm just going to get that a little bit sharper. If he ignores me, and I ultimately, even though he's doing it, good boy, I want him to be a little bit softer in the head. So just to finish that manoeuvre, I'm just going to ask him to flex left again. So I'm going to just quietly, good job, and reward. Because what he does is as he comes around, he straightens his neck and tries to move out, and when I'm on his back and I need to do an emergency stop, I really don't want him to do that because that's when I lose control. So I'm just going to, and he's a bit heavy, so I'm just going to bump my hand on his halter until, good boy, he softens off the rope. Take him over here. So flex him first, and there he's just been a bit heavy, so I'm going to say, oi, listen up. Then heavy again, so hop off the halter. And if I just pull, I just find they lean against me. Thank you. And again, he's gone straight out. Good boy. That time he did a little bit of a soften and did a nice yield in the hindquarters. He's a little bit heavy and a bit rude, and that's just because he needs sharpening up in his aids. Good, that was nice, well done. And that time I didn't have to pull him, he kept his head nice and soft. So there he straightened up. I'm going to bump him, hop off. I want his head tipped. Good boy, good boy. That was nice, he tipped it lovely at the end. Well done. I want his head really soft. I don't want to drag him through the manoeuvres. Good, that was really lovely. That time there I didn't have to touch his face at all. Give him a reward. Now I'm going to come back in this direction. So first I'm going to tip his head towards me. Good. Put the pressure. He started to move his forehand across to me. So good boy. So he started to come across and get into my space a little bit. So I just sent him off. Good boy. He's got his head tipped nicely there. And he's just coming against the nose. I'm going to bump him until he softens. Good. Bump. That was a nice one. Good man. Whoa. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a rein back. So when I'm on his back, I want to be able to stop him. So I'm just going to hold until he softens his nose or takes a step back. And actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to wait till he softens to finish. So he did take a step back. I'm just going to wait till he's relaxed and soft through his jaw. Good boy. I'll just slide his halter up a little bit. So I need him soft through his head and his neck before I start the manoeuvre, good boy, and then after I finish the manoeuvre. So back. This is where we have personality issues, but that's okay. Good. Thank you. So soften, good. Pressure. He backed, which is nice. I'm going to hold until he softens. Good boy. Yes, it's so hard. Good. Now soften. Good. Back. And he's really heavy on that, so I'm going to bump him and say, excuse me, hop off the pressure. Good. And he stayed nice and soft. Again, if I just hold the pressure, I just find he just leans on it. There's not really a lot of respect for what I'm asking. All right. Soften. Good. Back. Good. So he's just kind of heavy at the moment. So I'm going to do that again. And I'm going to bump on him until I get a little bit more of a lighter reaction. So soften. Good boy. Good. That was really nice. So that time there I bumped and he quickly softened back. Good, because basically everything I do, I want to have it off the smallest, quietest aid. I don't want to have to nag and annoy them all the time. So, good. That was so good. See how I just asked him for the soften? Good boy. And he just quietly came back. So I'll go one more time. Good. Don't. Good. And that was good too. And the pawing is just a really baby thing. I will tell him off for it because it's not polite, but I'm not too fussed about it. Good boy. Now I just want to do a turn on the hindquarters, so I just want the hindquarters to stay still and the front end to move around in a semicircle. So I'm just going to place one hand on the shoulder, one hand under the halter, and just gently tap his shoulder there. Just because he's ignoring me, good boy. There we go. He gets a little bit a bigger tap, and then there he was just a bit heavy on the halter. So here. So we would say he's not the smartest about that because he'll just go for the smaller tails. But he's also really unconcerned about it. So I'd want to go till I get a reaction. So we talk about when I'm training, I have level 1 to 10. Level 1 is the tiniest aid. It's just lifting my energy in preparation to ask a question. Level 10 is like a full-on, you've ignored me, now go, give me a response. So I start at pressure 1, so I lift my energy, then I put a little bit of a click in my voice or a bit of pressure, then I raise that intensity until I get a response. At the moment, I'm having to get to 4 or 5 on his shoulder before he's even registering in his brain that I'm asking him to do something. I waited there until he gave me a response because I could feel he was thinking about it. He gave me a response. I rewarded him. If I just stayed on pressure 2 like this and I just went again and again, he starts to be desensitized. So he becomes really heavy to the aid and now no longer listens and does what I'm asking, and so becomes a very heavy horse that for the rest of his life has to be nagged. If I went in straight at pressure 8 and I gave him a big wallop, and he's only presenting a pressure of 4 or 5, now I'm scaring him and I'm traumatizing him, and he's going to be really oversensitive and really reactive. So I move up the levels until I get a reaction, and then I reward. So let's see if we can get a slightly better reaction. So here, tip, good boy. Kind of half satisfactory answer, and he's just a bit heavy on the halter. There we go. Good boy. That time there, did you see I lifted my energy? I took my hand out to begin to tap him on the shoulder, so I probably got to pressure 2 and he moved over beautifully. So then I give him a reward. I'll bring him back over here, and I'll just do that a couple more times to implement it. So he has done a bit of this basic stuff before, but he's been out in the paddock for 6 months with no handling at all except to come to our new property. So here, tip. Good boy. Now that time there he didn't move his feet, but I felt his muscles move in preparation, and he tipped his head beautifully. And for that I always want to reward them before it's happened rather than after it's happened, because I feel like I get so much of a lighter response. Well done. So here. Nice, good boy. And it's not a true turn on the hindquarters. He's not crossing the legs over, but it's the beginning stages, and it's at this stage I'm happy with that. So here, tip, which is already done. Good. I'm just going to bring his nose over a fraction. There we go. Just to move that forehand over a little more. Good. And then his near 4 just moves out slightly. And then what would happen then is, as he gets the idea of that, I could put more pressure on and ask him to take a bigger step across and ultimately cross those front feet over. So now we've got a little bit of body control. What I'm now going to do is incorporate leg cues in advance or in preparation for when I get on his back. So here, when I'm turning him left and right, etc., with my hand there, it's preparing him for when I'm on the back with reins. And now I want to teach them what leg is, because when you get on their back, leg doesn't mean anything to them. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hand into a fist, and it's going to replicate my heel. First of all, open your mouth. Don't. First of all, I've got 3 places on the stomach that control different parts of the body. If my leg is on here where the girth is, I'm controlling the front end. If my pressure's back here, I'm controlling the back end. Move your head, bud. So back here, controlling the back end. And if my pressure's here, I'm controlling front and back. So this is like turn on the hindquarters. This is turn on the forehand. This is side pass, which then steps into your leg yields, etc. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to tip his nose here. I'll show you where I'm putting my hand back here. And I'm going to push on him until he moves the hindquarter. Good man. And then I'm going to go again. I'm going to give him a little bit of a nudge, like I would with my heel, because he didn't respond. Good job. And then here. Click to him if he's not listening. Good. He's just starting to get it, but I just want him a little bit lighter. Good boy. Now I'm going to come to this side. You're following me with the camera. I'm going to come here. So he's ignored me, so I'm going to raise pressure, raise pressure, raise pressure, raise pressure, raise pressure. He's too busy trying to bite me. Thank you. And then come in again. Raise pressure. Nice. That time I only got to a 3 pressure, whereas before I was at 5. Good boy. And here. Hey, that was rude. There he went to cow kick me because he's inconvenienced by me. Hey, naughty. I'll come in again. Good boy. And that was a pressure of 1 or 2. Good man. So I like that he's expressive with his personality. He communicates very well when he's annoyed or bored. And just being a 3-year-old, his attention span's small. So I have to understand that and keep a session nice and short, which I'll try to do. Now I just want to move the front end. So instead of having my hand on the shoulder, I'm going to put my fingers in here. Good. He actually rocked his body away from me there, so I'm going to reward. Go again. Good boy. I'm going to tap him. Get a response. Good. Good. That was lovely. Now this is all basic stuff. Until I've laid a really good foundation for this, it wouldn't be fair to ask for more. Good boy. Don't do that. Good man. And again, really, really light. Now the side pass is a bit trickier, but basically I'm just going to keep my hand here. I'm going to step a little further back, put my hand halfway in between where it was before. Good boy. And if he starts to move one or the other, I can just shift my hand to straighten him up. Good, so stop down. I'm going to come across to his girth because he just needs to move the front end. Good. Good, and then I'm just going to move the front end. Good man. Good boy. So of course that's not a proper side pass, but you can see he's starting to move the hindquarters and then the forehand, and then at some stage he'll get the idea and move them both together. Alright. Move over. Good boy. So here, side pass again, so hand halfway in between. Wake him up. Good. I'm going to put my hand forward and just move the forehand, but get him a little bit less heavy on the halter. Good boy. Well done. And one more time. Good boy. And that one was such a good effort. I'm going to make a really big fuss of him. Good boy. Come over here. Good man. So when I give them a reward, it's really obvious they've done the right thing. Give them a bit of a scratch in here. They love this massage up here. He's quite cute. Hey, little donkey. Good boy. So far I've laid a bit of a foundation for when I get on his back. Ultimately, I would do this for a few days in advance, but he's got enough of a back end that I'll just show you sort of what happens. The next thing I do before I want to get on their back, and I'll show you in a quick version of how I climb on their backs, but I want to stand at their girth here, close into them, and I want to turn their head until they, not bite me, but until they sort of look at me and take me in. So I had a mare that came to me. She was already broken in. She had an issue when you first got in her that she would sometimes catch you out of the corner of her right eye and then bronc. And when I went to do this with her, she would not soften her head around and look at me on this rein. On the left rein she would happily, but on the right rein she'd look back and then she'd go into freeze mode and then just go stock still and then try to turn her head back. And I'd say she'd had a trauma when the person got on her back to back her. They would have hopped off the left side and suddenly appeared out the right eye, and she would have got a fright and put her head between her legs and barked. And so after that it became a trauma memory, and every time she saw something out the corner of her right eye, she would want to bark. As soon as I just quietly let her come round on this side and take me in and finally sniff me and inhale this long breath, I never ever had an issue again. So with all my break-ins, it's something I do all the time now. So I stand at the girth, have them come and have a look at me. So you can see from his body language he's not scared of me at all. So he was very happy to come around and look at me. So I'm pretty confident when I climb on his back I'm not going to have any issues. Sometimes a horse, when you get them to here, they'll start freezing up and holding their breath, and their ears will start to tense on you, and they won't be able to move. And then you are going to have, you've got to work through that. You wouldn't want to climb on their backs, because at that stage, that's when you're going to have bolting, rearing, bucking, etc. So, now that I've done that, I think it's time to get on you. I'm going to take my vest off because this is rustly. So I don't want to climb on with a rustly jacket. Not that he would care. I don't think he's going to care at all. But I'll do a little change and then I'll start again.